All right. I hope the technology gods are smiling on me. Let's go ahead and dive in. So, you are not the only person who does what you do. You don't run the only business that performs the service that you provide. How the heck do you manage to stand out from the crowd and not be forced to compete on price, right? That's the worst. And not be forced to work with just anybody who is breathing and appears willing to hire you. You want to make sure that you are attracting great right fit clients for you and that you are repelling the wrong fit. I'm going to talk about how you can do that. My name is Winnie Anderson. I am a buyer enablement specialist. And what I do is I help you stop selling and start helping clients decide to buy by making sure that you are attracting, qualifying, and closing great clients faster and easier. And the biggest issue that so many businesses face right now, especially, is this long time it takes for a uh, for a deal to close. I'm looking at my other monitor. I have two monitors and I have notes in front of me, of course, and I'm trying to get this technology to work right, and it is not. So I'm just going to go ahead and go. So we are trying to attract great prospects, help them decide to say yes and do it faster and easier, right? So many clients, so many businesses today wrestle with the issue of they don't have enough leads, they don't have great leads, their leads don't turn into prospects, the prospects don't actually say yes, and the whole sales process, right? That's all referred to as your sales cycle, takes way too long. It's way longer than you would really like to. And when that happens, you run into cycles of feast or famine, and they can be really, really high. So, one of the most important things that every business has to do is to stand out from the crowd in their industry segment. How do you do that? What that really speaks to is creating some kind of uniqueness, right? You hear this referred to as your USP, your unique selling proposition. People have variations on how they express that, but really it's what do you offer that makes you unique and different. And that can be really hard for you to identify because it's like looking at the end of your nose, right? You can't see the end of your nose. I worked with a coach who described it as the sharpest knife in the drawer can't carve its own handle. Very true. We have a hard time recognizing what makes us unique. So I'm going to share some core strategies around that to help you start to embrace what makes you unique. And I don't know why this is not working, but it is not. So I'm going to try this again. One second. While I try this again. It's just not working. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep doing this. So the real essence is that, as I said, none of us is unique. Today in movie history is actually the debut of Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? The movie was actually called Raiders of the Lost Ark. There was no Indiana Jones in the title. So it's the debut, the original launch date of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, one of the all-time great movies, right? I don't know about you, I could watch it a million times and I never get tired of it. I know all the dialogue, I know all the scenes, I could do a one-woman show, but I never get tired of seeing Raiders. What makes Raiders so unique? It's actually not an original concept, right? It's an adventure movie. And there's a hero, a handsome hero, There's a plucky heroine, Marion. There's the whole concept of good versus evil. Indy's one of the good guys. The Nazis are bad. Nazis are bad. Let me say that clearly. Nazis are bad. So it's a classic good versus evil story. And Indiana has the other archaeologist, Belloc, who is his enemy, right? Belloc's a bad guy. So why is Indiana such a classic? Why is Raiders such a classic and so closely held in the hearts of so many people when it's not original? You know, there's a lot about Raiders that is just completely the same as or similar to the serials of in old time movies. And by serials, these were movies that every week there would be another one, or every couple of weeks, and it would be the next in the adventure, right? So it was an ongoing series of movies that you could watch, and you'll watch the next adventure of your hero. There are some elements in the way the film was shot that are similar, right? There's the plane as it travels, and it's against the map. That's directly out of classic movies. There's a scene like that in Casablanca, my all-time favorite movie. So there's a lot about Indiana that and the movie Raiders that is just completely the same, but it seems so fresh, right? It seems so new. Then when we saw other movies from whatever source material that had elements that for us resonated as being with Raiders or being from Raiders, we're like, we saw that already. Indiana did that same thing. That's an old story. So how do you stand out? How did Raiders of the Lost Ark stand out among all the other movies that came out in 1981, and also all the other adventure movies? Let's unpack that a little bit and draw some parallels to what you can borrow so you can be the perceived Indiana to your fans, followers, and clients. All right, so let's dive in. What we're really talking about is positioning. Positioning is all about the space you occupy in somebody's mind. So if you think of your brain as a filing cabinet and your memories as file folders, right? There are hanging file folders, and then there are the manila folders that go inside each one. Those hanging file folders, and sometimes the drawers itself, are labeled with categories. And then the manila folders are the people that you know who fit in, or businesses that fit into that category. So for example, accountants. I know easily a half a dozen accountants. But my first thought is always my accountant, Bob. I've talked about Bob before. Love Bob. Bob is a partner in a pretty big accounting firm, and we just adore him. I actually met Bob when I was when I worked at the Red Cross. I used to work for the Red Cross. And he used to come in, and my assistant's office, one of my assistant's office, was right across the hall. She was the bookkeeper, and Bob would come in and he would work with her to make sure the books were in order and answer any questions she had. So when I left the Red Cross after my car accident, I hired Bob as my accountant. My husband and I hired him, and he's a great person. We've worked with him. Oh my gosh, it's almost 30 years. Love Bob, right? So we've got an emotional connection to him. He's not unique, but there are things that resonate with us. So I'm going to talk about Indiana Jones and Bob, and hopefully you can see this connection. So positioning is the space you occupy in somebody's mind Bob is it for accountants for me, and then everybody else is an also ran. There are people who, right, there are coaches. That would be another hanging file folder. And then who do you know who's a coach? But who's that mental image of a coach? Now, it might be for you that that mental image of a coach is actually somebody like Tony Robbins or somebody like that, right? Brendan Burchard. But they're not really the people that you go to or that you refer to. They're people that you follow, but they're not people that you buy from. So that's something else for you to noodle on and think about. And what real estate do you own in the mind, but more importantly, the heart of the buyer? Because every purchasing decision happens at an emotional level. Yes, you have to connect with them cognitively. You have to make sense to them. Your message has to resonate mentally with them. But it really has to resonate with them from an emotional standpoint, because science has proven that purchasing decisions happen at an emotional level. So positioning is the spot you own in the mind of the buyer. And the brand that you have is your reputation. It is how well known you are. And then ideally, you're known for this particular thing, this position that you hold in the space of people's minds. People describe you in lots of ways, right? You're a nice person, you're fun, but what do you most want to be known for? So the challenge with building a strong brand, a strong reputation, is you want to get out such a clear message that it resonates in the mind of the buyer in the same way that you want to be known for. Hope that makes sense. So if people refer you to other friends they have to come and work with you, and you get these referrals and you're like, that's not what I do. You're not a good fit. Then there's a disconnect between your position in their mind, what you do, who you help, and why they're sending you these referrals. So you really want to consciously work to clarify your message and make sure that you're sending out the right message and building this powerful brand and strengthening your position in the mind of buyers. So yes, there are lots of things that you can do to help strengthen your position. One is being first with a message. That is really hard to do when there are so many people who do the same work that you do. Indiana Jones was not the first adventurer in movies. Raiders of the Lost Ark was not the first good versus evil story in the movies. So, but how did that movie connect with us and resonate with us? One thing was there was a unique point of view that was shared. Indiana Jones has this unique perspective about treasure hunting. And he was all about, remember, he's actually a professor. He's all about finding these artifacts and sharing them with the world through museums, and the museum specifically at his university. So, and remember, one of his boss, who was played by Denholm Elliott, Marcus, he would say, oh, of course, the museum will pay you. No questions asked, right? So we're not going to worry about the scruples of how you got this stuff, right? And we won't talk about that particular issue because it's a movie. So he had a unique point of view. Now, think about his competitor, Belloc. Belloc also had a unique point of view. He was really more of a mercenary. And, he ends up going to the dark side, if you will, and working with the Nazis. He wanted to get a hold of the Ark of the Covenant. He was going to turn it over to Hitler, and somehow believed, don't ask me how, but he had convinced himself that he would get to use this and he could deal with the Nazis. No, you can't. So that is the foundation of their point of view, that there's good, there's evil, there's some gray. And where do you stand? Where do you stand on your particular subject? Also remember, they visually looked different. If you think about it, Belloc was always dressed in white or cream. He had a white hat, right? Which might make you think he's a traditional good guy. He's not. Indiana always looked kind of dirty. He had these obviously well-worn clothes, and the famous hat. He had, of course, his whip. So visually, he looked different, and he had a few elements, a few visual elements that as soon as you see them, you think of him. We all equate that fedora with Indiana Jones. It's a very specific style of a fedora. The same thing with the leather jacket. That's Indiana Jones. My hero, as you well know, is Sherlock Holmes, and I have over on my shoulder there is what is a Sherlock Holmes hat, right? The deerstalker with the two brims. So you too could have visual elements that speak of you, that remind people of you. We try to do this with branding, with color, with imagery, and this is really part of why you have a logo. The giant mistake that every business makes in coming up with a logo is they try to come up with a logo too soon, before their point of view is really clarified, and they end up with a logo maybe that's not that unique or really doesn't communicate the essence of their business very well. So that's something that you never want to rush. Don't tell yourself, I have to have a logo, I have to have a logo. You have to nail your message, and you have to nail your point of view. So your point of view is made up of your beliefs, your values, your philosophy, and your approach. So as you think about Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, think about how Indiana communicated his values, his beliefs, his philosophy, and his approach to the work that he did of uncovering artifacts and sharing them with the world. So you have a point of view, and it's important for you to be able to embrace it and then courageously communicate that, right? If there's one word you'd say about Indiana, he's definitely courageous. You've got to courageously communicate your point of view, and that means where you disagree with what the gurus say, you've got to stand up and say that. If you don't have a clear point of view, you're just going to be like, yeah, okay, next. It's just not going to resonate with somebody. So you've got to be brave enough to get that message out. You don't necessarily have to use video. You can write, create posts, but you've got to create content that communicates your point of view and helps people understand why they should work with you. There's a coach, Andrea Lee. She wrote a book with Tina Forsyth, and it used to be called Pink Spoon Marketing. And this was they equated this with the pink spoon that at Baskins and Robbins, they'll give you a little sample of ice cream right before you eat it. So once you have that taste, then you want more. And that's really why you're creating content. It's to prove that you know what you know, and to connect emotionally and cognitively with your best prospects. So we've got the components of your point of view. We've got a visual component to differentiating yourself from others. A big part of this and how you communicate that point of view is verbally. You use language that hopefully nobody else is using. This is why it's so important to name your frameworks and to name your offerings, to make them unique and resonate. You want to make sure that you're naming things in a way that when somebody says, or when you say to somebody, this is my entry-level offer, or this is how we can work together through my Nail Your Message program. As soon as you say, and I have a Nail Your Message program. So if you think your message isn't clear, say Nail Your Message below, and I'll reach out to you with more information. So you want to name things in an aspirational way that makes people go, yeah, that's exactly it. I want that. There's something that we call, in terms of copywriters, call the head slap test. A head slap test, right? Like that V8 moment. So imagine your prospect wakes up in the middle of the night, hits themselves on the head, and says, Eureka, right? They have that big V8 moment. This is what I need. They have this sudden blinding flash of realization of what they need. Do they say, I need to fill in the blank with your offering? If they don't, you're not named well, right? Or your framework, right? One of the things that was a giant aha for me was that people needed to nail their message. It didn't matter what size business I worked with, and whether I worked at, when I worked at the agency, or agencies, I should say, or out on my own, nobody had nailed their message. So I named my program Nail Your Message, because that's what you need to do. You need to nail your message. So you need to ask yourself, have I named things in a way that fits the head slap test, right? So for your audience, they've got to go like that. And yes, I want that, right? You want to be able to say what you offer, or talk about a framework you use, a process, a methodology, and have them go, yeah, that's what I need. I want to do that. So then there's the emotion. As I said, people buy based on emotions. It's got to feel good. It's got to feel right. And it's got to connect with their values. We want to work with people we know, like, or trust, right? I call that your KLTQ quotient, how strongly they know, like, and trust you. And they've got to feel that your values are at least similar on enough of the things that matter to them. There are ways that you can communicate your value and your values, and same thing, visually, verbally, etc. So you want to be sure that you're communicating those values powerfully, and you do that by having an opinion and not being afraid to voice it. That issue of not being afraid to voice it is a tough one for a lot of people for a variety of reasons. You've got to recognize that and start pushing yourself to get past it. So many of us allow the fear of potential haters to hold us back. Marcus Sheridan, who's an author and entrepreneur, he says that you can't let haters control your marketing. You're not trying to resonate with them. Stop talking to them. You're trying to talk to people who are on the, what I call the right side of the mountain, right? So if this is the customer mountain, you're talking to people who are on the right side of the mountain. You're not talking to people on the wrong side of the mountain. They're haters, right? They don't even know they have a problem. So you're talking to people who have the problem, go, yeah, that's right. So you want to make sure that your style, your language resonates with them. This really comes down to being authentic and transparent. And I don't like to use those words too much, but because they're so overused, but really that's what people are looking for. They want to believe you, they want to trust you. So you've got to give them content that helps them do that. It attracts what I call pre-sold buyers by educating them about their problem, the solutions, how to choose a solution provider, etc. Elevating yourself, right? By positioning yourself as an educator, you stand out as a solution provider and not a salesperson, not a pure service provider. Inspire them, help them shift their thinking, see what's possible, believe that the risks associated with purchasing from you are worth it, inspiring them to take action, and then inviting them to take that next step. And that next step is not always buy something from you. It could be watch this video. It could be take this assessment. It could be, yeah, let's have a conversation and see if we're a good fit. So if you've done all that ahead of time, you're attracting people who are really ready to say yes. They're just looking for something to make them feel good. And a lot of times that comes down to connecting with you emotionally. So you want to make sure that you are looking for ways to subtly repel the wrong people. This also comes down to all the things I've already mentioned. Language, your point of view, because when you say your point of view, people who think you're full of it, they're just going to go, yeah, you're nuts. No, I'm not doing that. Right? Yes, God bless you. Go off, find your solution with the person who's the right fit for you. We're not judging anybody here, and you can't feel bad or resent them for moving forward. Be happy because it wouldn't have been a good fit, right? You only want to work with people who are right fits, people who are going to be able to apply and achieve with your help, people who are going to have success, who are going to be great case studies and testimonials for you, who are then going to help refer you other great clients. So the problem that we run into is when we don't have enough prospects coming in who turn into clients. So when we don't have a smooth flow, whether it's a drip, but it's steady, we don't have a smooth flow in terms of numbers. And that's when we feel desperate. So you've got to work yourself out of any kind of feeling desperate and make sure that you're getting your message in the right volume out to people. So you are then, and you're constantly fine tuning and improving it. So you're attracting great clients and then leveraging that, right? So that means finding, I refer to it as fish in a barrel, right? If your target is a fish, you want to find the barrel that has the fish in it. So where is your audience in enough numbers that it makes sense for you to get your message out, right? That could be social media. It could be groups that you belong to. It could be associations that you belong to. Where is your target person? Now, you might be thinking, well, this all sounds like niching to me. Yeah, that's a big part of it. And that is something that so many service businesses resist. But it's actually makes it easier for you to connect with and resonate with your ideal clients when you focus. So you ideally focus on a problem that you solve. And when you narrow your focus to just solving that problem, you become magnetic for the people who have the problem. Those people who have that problem probably know other people who have that problem, and then they can help you spread the word. But if you try to be everything to all people, it's not going to work. So the heavier the competition, the heavier the volume of people and businesses who are in your category, the more important it is for you to clearly position yourself as a solution to a very specific problem that specific people are likely going to have. All right. So I hope that has helped. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. As I said, I have that Nail Your Message program. If you're interested, let me know. I also have a couple of other things. I have my pre-sale and profit summer camp, which is starting on June 17th as I record this. If you are interested, please reach out to me. Comment below summer camp and I'll get back to you. It starts on Monday, 8 weeks. And we're going to work on building your brand so that you can attract more leads, prospects, and opportunities and create the content foundation you need to be able to use that as a springboard to achieve your goals. It's $48. Come on. It's less than a hot fudge sundae once a week, right? Less than an ice cream cone a day, and it won't get you fat. I also have a manifesto that I recently released. So if you want to check that out, all about how to stop selling and start helping clients decide to buy, say manifesto and I'll get you a copy. All right, that is it for now. Have a great rest of the week. Think about how can you stand out, be the Indiana Jones to those that you want to serve, and watch Raiders of the Lost Ark in honor of its anniversary. All right, I'll catch up with you. Have a great rest of the day. Bye for now.